Your purpose comes from your pain, not physical pain, but emotional pain. So you have to think about what's the biggest kind of emotional pain that you've suffered in your life. And then you have to think about how did you solve it? What was the solution for it? That solution that you have that you found for yourself, you can help other people with that solution. Hi there, this is Sarah Kuhn. If you are an INFJ or in a relationship with an INFJ or related to an INFJ in any way, and you want to figure out how they operate, what makes them tick, and how to communicate with them better, this is the show for you. It's called The Quiet Ones. This is a show that deconstructs INFJs, what they are, how they think, how they feel, how they operate, and how they relate to people with other personality types. Whether you have just found out that you're an INFJ or have known for a number of years, there is something for everyone. You will learn more about your personality type so that you understand who you are and understand how you operate in the workplace, in relationships, in your family, and with friends. I want you to walk away from every episode feeling like you have a place of belonging, feeling like you are no longer alone, feeling like you have a place to be heard and seen and understood as you really are. This is a place to connect with other INFJs, to learn and grow and really thrive. I want to give you inspiration and real life strategies that are going to help you figure out how to live your best life every single day. Though INFJs are very rare, you are not alone in this world. You are not the only one who thinks the way that you do and feels the way that you do. Hear from real INFJs just like you. Hi there, I'm Sarah Kuhn. Welcome to another episode of The Quiet Ones. So today, we don't have an interview today. We actually have a coaching session that I wanted to share with you that I did with a wonderful young lady named Mal. We talked about finding your purpose, how to get past perfectionism, overcoming imposter syndrome, what to focus on, and how to take action on your dreams. If you're interested in a free coaching session, please go to infjwoman.com/coaching. There's a link for it in the show notes. Before we get started, I want to make sure that you can get all of the show notes along with all the links to everything we're talking about by going to thequietonespodcast.com. While you're there, make sure you check out my book, The INFJ User Guide. It will help you understand what it means to be an INFJ and discover how life-changing that knowledge can be for you. Also, you can watch the video interview at youtube.com/thequietonespodcast. So what can I help you with? What do you need coaching for?
Just finding my purpose, really.
Finding your purpose, that's such a big struggle with INFJs. It's one of the biggest things that I struggled with too. And I'll tell you what the answer is. It's really, really simple. Your purpose comes from your pain, not physical pain, but emotional pain. So you have to think about what's the biggest kind of emotional pain that you've suffered in your life. And then you have to think about how did you solve it? What was the solution for it? That solution that you have that you found for yourself, you can help other people with that solution. Does that make sense?
Sure, it does. But how do you know? Because let's say you've gone through quite a number of situations that have caused emotional pain on you. And how do you know which one?
There are several different exercises that you can do. So one of the ones that helped me the most is to write down, think about your life in 10-year chunks, right? So start with however old you are today and go back 10 years. So when I did this, I'm going to be 35 this year. So I would go from 25 to 35. And then write down everything that was emotionally painful that happened in those 10 years. And then think about maybe there's connections. When I wrote mine down, I was shocked and surprised that a lot of them were all connected. It was the same kind of pain that I went through with like 75% of them. But then you do that for 10 years and then you go back another 10 years, however long back that you can remember. And think about in those time frames, what was the most painful things? And maybe if they're not all connected, maybe narrow it down to like 3 different ones. And then do that for each set of 10 years that you can remember.
Sure.
And then see which one strikes you the most. Which one do you feel called to? Especially as INFJs, we have a really strong intuition. And so usually there's something that your intuition is telling you that you need to do. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Maybe it's something that you've wanted to do for a long time and you keep talking yourself out of it.
Mm-hmm.
For me, when I was young, I wanted to be a writer, but as soon as I had that thought, the next thought was, oh, I can't be a writer because I'm not really good at spelling. And you have to
Mm-hmm.
be good at spelling to be a writer, right? But that's
Yeah,
not actually true. You
definitely.
don't.
No. Yeah, but then how do you write? You don't know how to write.
I write a blog. I've written a blog for a year and a half, and I wrote a whole book, and I've written several ebooks, and I'm not any better at spelling now than I was back then. But part of the process is I've learned how to do my own editing. I've learned there are several different apps that you can use that help you spell and work on sentence structure.
Mm-hmm.
And you get better the longer that you do it, right? So you're not going to be really, really good at something when you first start doing it.
Yeah.
But if you want to do it, then you just have to keep getting better at it. And the part that's really difficult, especially with INFJs, a lot of us struggle with perfectionism.
Yeah.
So we want to be really good at something when we first start, but we have to let that go and do it scared and do it
What
messy.
helped you to let it go? To let the perfectionism?
How do you let it go? It's an everyday process.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's a commitment to yourself that you're going to do it even though it's not perfect, and it's fighting through the fear every single day. The
Yeah.
first time that I scheduled a blog post, the first time I went to hit publish, I was like, oh, this is the worst thing in the whole entire world. This blog post is terrible. Like, I was so embarrassed. I don't want people to read it. And so I sat there for a while and I'm looking at the publish button and I'm just going, oh, I just feel sick. I don't know if I'm going to do this. And but what happened was I did it anyway because I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. I'm scared. I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to do it scared. I'm going to do it even though it's messy.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do it. Um, the same thing happened with my podcast too. When I
Mm.
first started my podcast, it the first episode was about 30 minutes long. It took me about 5 hours to record it, and it took me about 10 hours to edit it because it
Yeah.
was it was a lot. But the trick is to just keep going, to keep pushing through all of those fears, and
Yeah.
because it gets better, but it's not going to get better
Mm-hmm.
until you do it when you're scared and when it's messy, right?
Mm. Okay.
Yeah. It's not easy. I've went through the same process with my niece. She's starting a YouTube channel,
Mm-hmm.
and I was having flashbacks of myself listening to her because she's like, this is really hard, and I've scheduled a video, but now I'm chickening out. And I'm like, don't chicken out, just keep going, because it is
Yeah.
hard in the beginning, but it'll get a lot better.
It is.
The 5th video that you do is a lot better. The 10th video, the 100th video is even better. And the more that you do it, the less scared that you are, and the easier it is to hit publish.
Mm.
Or to upload your video on YouTube, whatever it is that you want to do. It gets easier, but you have to get through the part that's really hard first.
Yeah, definitely. So is it with everything that we do as INFJ, like the more we do it, the easier it becomes?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Because I remember failing an exam, like when I was doing my degree, and then I'm doing another course right now, and I have to sit for sort of like similar exam, and I'm super scared. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get in a flashback, so I'm gonna be like, so I'm really yeah.
Right? It's always that failure that motivates me too. When I was in high school, I had straight A's, like perfect grades. Everything was just great. When I
Mhm.
got to college, it got a lot harder. And so my A's went to B's and then to C's. And then I got to physics. I was studying mechanical engineering, and I took physics, which was for doctors and engineers, and I
Mm.
failed. And I never failed a class before, and I was just like devastated.
Yeah.
But my first reaction was to just be devastated and like, my life is over. But then my second reaction is like, okay, what do I do now? what's the next step? So I went and talked to my school counselor, and she's like, well, you have to take the class again. She's like, if you take it in the very next semester, that F that you got won't be counted on your transcript. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I just have to take, and I had to take it over the summer because it was the spring semester that I had failed it. And I'm like, ooh, so I have to take this class in half the time than what I had taken it before. She's like, yeah, but you got to pass it. Otherwise it'll be on your transcript that you got an F. And actually you got 2 Fs if you don't pass it the second time. And I'm like, all right, then this summer, that's all I'm doing is taking physics. So it was like, I'd only had a little bit of time to be devastated, and then it was like, nope, class starts next week, so you better get over it and get moving.
Yeah.
You know? And thankfully, the second time around, I got a B in the class. So I think that it helped a lot, though, to just get right back up on the horse, and just keep going.
Yeah.
One of my favorite podcasters, her name is Ruth Sukop, and what she says is fail fast, because a lot of us have this this thing that we do. Me especially, I fail at something, especially in my business. I put something out there as an offer and nobody says anything. It's like crickets, nobody's interested. And I'm like, oh, that was awful. Like, I'm never going to do that again. And so I just sit there for like a month thinking about how terrible it was and how embarrassed I was. And I put myself out there and nobody said anything. And then it takes me like a whole month to get over it. And then a couple of weeks to put something else out there. And before you know it, it's been 2 months.
Yeah.
Whereas what Ruth is saying is fail fast. So like, you put something out there and nobody says anything. Okay, try something else, like right away. Don't wait 2 months and try something else.
So my first question would be, how do you deal with doing something you believe it's your purpose, yet you just got no support at all, even from family, the people that you love the most, even if when they're really negative about it, you know what I mean? Like, they're really discouraging you and they're very negative about it. They're saying you shouldn't do it. How do you then go ahead?
The first question that you have to ask is it something for you that you feel like is morally right? Now, if it's morally wrong, I would say don't do it. But if it is morally right for you, then you can't listen to all of the critics, regardless of whether they're your family members or your friends, or if it's negative people that are on Instagram or YouTube or wherever your audience is going to be. You can't listen to them, because there's always going to be people who are negative. There's always going to be people who are telling you can't do what you want to do.
But then it's really hard when you've got no support at all, because let's be honest, everyone wants some form of support for them to be successful.
It is really, really difficult. When I started my blog, I had nobody understood what I was doing. None of my friends got it, and they were like, that's never gonna work. Even my niece, I'm gonna throw her under the bus here. I told her 2017, I told her I want to start a YouTube channel, and she's like, why? That's not gonna work. Don't do that. Everybody's gonna do that. And I kind of let her talk me out of it, because I was like, well, yeah, you're right. I mean, not a lot of people succeed. And so I let her talk me out of my dreams. And now it's kind of funny, because now I'm the one who's talking her into starting a YouTube channel, right? But I know that a lot of times our parents and our friends have good intentions. Especially, I know that my niece had good intentions when she told me not to start the channel, right? Because she doesn't want people saying bad things about me. And she doesn't want me to waste a bunch of time and energy on something that may or may not work, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you have to do what's right for you. And if you feel like your purpose is calling you to do something like starting a business online or an Instagram account or YouTube, whatever it is, you should definitely do that. And your support may not come from your close family and friends, but you can still find support in other places. I have found so much support in Facebook and the community that's around my podcast.
Yeah.
My whole group of friends that are around me has changed, because all of those people who told me that I couldn't do it and were being negative towards me, I don't want that kind of activity in my life. I don't want that negativity. I don't want people talking me out of my dreams. So what I did was distance myself from those people and find people who had the same dreams as I did, or people who have bigger dreams. I spent this morning listening to and interacting with Evan Carmichael, who was on my podcast just a couple of weeks ago. I purchased his book, and so because of that, I got access to a Facebook group that he's in, and he does live Q&As in that group. And instead of being negative and saying that's never going to work, he's like, do it now, don't be scared, keep going. And he's just like so encouraging, right? So when you think about the support that you're getting, if your family's not going to give you support, then you have to look for support in other places. I have several podcasts that I listen to that I absolutely love, that every time I listen to one of the episodes, I'm just so encouraged and excited, and I'm like, yes, I'm gonna do this. So anytime I feel like I need some extra support, I go to those podcasts. I've surrounded myself with people who are interested in the same goals that I'm interested in, that that are doing the same thing. And then other sources like Evan that are just build me up, and that's way more important to me than the people who are going to bring me down.
But then how do you know that what you think is your purpose is actually your purpose? How do you know that?
You have to try it. You just have to take action on it and see what happens, because you're never going to know for sure until you actually do it. And what your purpose is today may not be your purpose 5 years from now, or 10 years from now, or 50 years from now. But that's totally fine. I think a lot of us have this idea that our purpose, that we only have one purpose in life. And I know when I was in high school and college, I was so stressed out trying to find my purpose, because I thought it was one thing, and I had to figure it out when I was 18 years old, what I was going to do for the next 75 years of my life, right? But that's not how it works. That's putting a lot of pressure on yourself, and that's putting a lot of pressure on one job or one thing that you're doing, right? As millennials, we will be in 9 different careers, not jobs, careers in our lifetime.
Is there a reason for it?
Is there a reason for being in different careers?
Yeah.
I think it's because we have so much more opportunity, right? Our parents were kind of trapped in a box. They didn't have a lot of the information that we have now. And there wasn't a lot of the industries in the past that there are now, especially with so much business being online, with social media, with, the opportunity that we have to connect with people all around the world. We can do a lot more than what our parents could do. So why not? Why be stuck in the same mentality that they have, right?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yes. And what if you think something is your purpose and you want to do it, but it requires you to have, let's say, money that you don't have? What do you do then? You want to help people that are really struggling, but you don't really have resources.
You have to be creative. When you don't have money, you have to get creative. There are some things that you can't do, right? Money will hold you back, but also the mindset that you don't have money, so you can't do something, will also hold you back. I started my blog, my Instagram account, my podcast with no money. The microphone that I used for my podcast cost me $35 when I first started. So my total investment into my blog was $100 for the website for the year and like $20 for the domain. And that was it. Instagram doesn't cost you anything. Having a podcast is a little bit more expensive because you have to pay for hosting. But other than that, if you have a computer, then it doesn't really cost you hardly anything. And depending on what your purpose is, you're going to need an audience. Even if you're trying to start a nonprofit to help people, you're going to need people to donate to your nonprofit, right?
Definitely.
So that's a great place to start, is to build awareness before you can actually, have the resources to help people.
Did you get criticism when you started from people, from the audience that you, how did you deal with that?
Yes. Yes, I get criticism. I get criticism a lot, all the time, actually.
How do you deal with it?
One of my favorite features on Instagram is block. Because I look at it the same way that I look at my friends and my family.
Uh-huh.
If people are not going to be supportive of my dreams and my goals and my desire to help and, build each other up, I don't have time for them in my life. I'm not going to argue with them. I'm not going to even take the time to recognize what they're saying. I'm just going to block, delete and block them.
Yeah, but you can't block someone off YouTube, can you?
Yeah.
Can you? No, you can't block someone off YouTube if they're your subscriber or something.
Yeah.
Can
yeah,
you?
you can block them.
I haven't figured out a way to do that.
Yes. You can block people off of all of the social media platforms. I've done it.
Really?
Yes. And some people ask me about that. Some people say, well, that's kind of rude, or, well, don't you want like a well-rounded opinion on your social media account? And here's my theory. One of the things that I studied in college was criminal justice, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the police, at least in the United States, they have this theory that's called the broken windows theory.
Yeah.
So if you have an abandoned building and somebody goes and throws something through the window and breaks the window, other people are going to walk by and say, hey, that building is abandoned. Let me go break the other window. Let me go break in and see what's in there. Let me go spray some graffiti on there. Like, let's hang out here because nobody participates. Nobody cares about this building, so let's hang out here. Mm-hmm. And what happens is there's a bunch more crime that happens there. Whereas if you have that same building and somebody goes and breaks a window, but there is somebody paying attention to it and they go and replace the window right away, then people see, oh, there's actually somebody taking care of it, even though it is abandoned. So there's less crime that happens there, right? So I feel like it's the same way on social media, where if you have a really nasty comment, and I'll use Instagram as an example because right now I have almost 53,000 followers on Instagram. Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of people, or there are people from time to time, I guess I should say, who leave nasty comments. And I try and pay really good attention to them, because when one person leaves a nasty comment, then several other people come along and they see that nasty comment and they're like, oh, it's okay to leave nasty comments. So here, let me leave another one. And let me add to the other thing that other person posted. And before you know it, you have 12 nasty comments on there, right? Whereas if I'm being diligent about looking at those comments and saying, no, you're not leaving nasty comments here, go away. Mm-hmm. Then you'll have less nasty comments because you're taking care of all those people. I also look at it from a standpoint of me as a consumer. When I go to somebody else's Instagram page and I see a bunch of nasty comments, I don't want to comment because I think these people might attack me. Mm-hmm. And I also don't want to participate with that page because I'm like, well, they just don't care about what people are saying about them, right? Whereas if there's a bunch of positive comments, then I'm a lot more likely to engage because I know people are less likely to attack me, right?
So are there any techniques that you can use to sort of like tap in your higher purpose, like meditation or something? Are there any techniques for it?
A lot of people use meditation. I don't know that much about meditation. I've tried it a few times and it really hasn't worked for me very well.
Really?
Yes. I love yoga, and I know there's a little piece of meditation with yoga. I also really love to take long walks, quiet, and I can kind of just let the thoughts come in and out of my head and, see what's there and kind of sort out what's there versus what doesn't need to be there, that works really well for me.
Mhm.
The biggest thing that you can do, though, is to try something. It's to take action, because your clarity is going to come with your action.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you're going to have to do the wrong thing, but the wrong thing will lead you to the right thing, right?
So does it mean that if you start something and you think that it's your purpose and it doesn't work, then it's not?
I wouldn't say if it doesn't work, because anything that you do is going to work if you put enough work into it, right? A lot of people will
Mhm.
start a blog or a YouTube channel and they say, "Oh, I put a couple of videos up on YouTube and they didn't go viral, so like I'm not going to do it anymore." And then they'll say, "Well, it didn't work." Or a better example for me, a lot of people tell me, "Well, I've been on Instagram for a couple of years, but Instagram
Mhm.
doesn't work and I can't build a following." And I ask them what they do. And they're like, "Well, I post every once in a while and I share some stuff about my life, and nobody likes it." Right? And they're like, "Well, how did you build 50,000 followers on Instagram? You must be really lucky." And I'm like, "No, I'm not lucky. First of all, I'm not lucky.
Yeah,
I
how did you do it?
I post 5 times a day every single day for a year
No.
and a half.
Mm.
It's work, right? And then not only am I posting a lot, but I'm engaging with the people that I have that follow me. And I know who my ideal customer is. I know what their pain points are, which is also important. And a lot of the stuff I don't post about my life, I post about what my ideal customer is interested in. And that's how you build a following. It's very strategic and it takes a lot of work. It's not something that you luck into. But if you do it correctly, anything that you do is going to work. And if you keep going and keep trying,
Mhm.
it's going to work. When I first started my blog, nobody read it. For like the first 2 months, nobody read it. But the third month, there were like 1,000 people who read it. And the fourth month, there were like 10,000 people who read it. So if I would have written my blog for a month and said, "Oh, nobody's interested in this, it's not going to work," it
Yeah.
wouldn't have worked, right?
No.
but but last year there were over 200,000 people who read my blog. So obviously it does work, right? You just have to be willing to put in the work and to
Mhm.
stick with it, to keep going even when nobody's reading it.
Um, yeah, I wanted to ask, how do you go about, let's say you feel like you wanna start a YouTube channel or you wanna do coaching, but you know nothing about the area that you want to talk about?
So for me, one of the hardest things for me was learning how to talk on video and feeling like I had any type of confidence. So I knew a lot about personality types. And if I
Mhm.
was talking to somebody one on one, I could tell you all kinds of things with total confidence about them. But as soon as I got in front of the camera, I was really shaky and nothing that I said sounded like any type of confidence. It was all "I think" and "maybe" and "it could be like this." And people watched my videos and they're like, "Well, if you don't know what you're talking about, why are you making videos?" Right?
Mm.
So that was one of the things that I had to get control of right away. And once you have a little bit more awareness about how you're talking about things, and even now it's kind of hard too, because my first inhibition is to say, I think, or maybe, and it's like, no, hold on, stop, try again. It's not "I think," it's "I know, this is how it is."
Yeah,
Um, I'm sure that you do know what it is that you want to talk about. You probably just feel like you're not an expert. Is that right?
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And then
That
it's kind of hard to narrow it down as well if you've got different kind of topics that you can talk about, you
that's
know.
true. That's true. Because there's about 4 different things that I like to talk about, and personality types is really only one of them.
Mhm.
So the first thing that you have to do is pick one of those things, because being spread too thin is really, really difficult. So you have to decide which one you like the most. And I would not, don't go down the road of "I know the most about this one" or "I feel the most confident about this one."
Mhm.
Ask yourself, which one do you like the most? If you had to talk about that subject all day long, every single day, which one would you pick? The next thing is, going back to what you said before, you feel like you don't know enough. That's called imposter syndrome. Every single person feels that way.
Yeah.
But what you have to remember is that you know more than somebody out there. So what I go back to every time I start feeling that way is I started my blog to just help one person.
Mm-hmm.
If I can help one person, then whatever I do is worth it. And I know more than a lot of people know. I may not know everything there is to know about personality types or Instagram or writing a blog, but I know more than a lot of people know.
Yes.
So my videos, my blog posts, they're not targeted towards people who know more than me. They're targeted towards people who know less than me, who are a step or two behind me, or who are where I was at 2 years ago when I was still learning about personality types, right? That's what you need to think about when you're feeling like you don't know enough. You do know enough. You know enough to start today, to put something out there today.
I hope so.
You do. There's somebody out there who's been where you are at, and you can help them.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's definitely what you should be doing.
So how did you deal with anxiety? Like, let's say you have to deal with people. Obviously, if you're in business, you do have to deal with people, and you're anxious about meeting a group of people or something.
Anxiety is difficult, especially for me because I have an anxiety disorder. Mm-hmm. And my anxiety disorder is focused around social situations. I also register really high being introverted. So I'm like, sometimes when I take the test, it's 90% introverted. So I would much rather stay at home and do my own thing rather than be in front of a bunch of people. Mm-hmm. But I always ask myself, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want to start your own business? How bad do you want to help other people? And that helps me fight through that anxiety. I know every time, even now, every time I go to do a podcast interview, when I'm talking to somebody new, I'm like pacing before the time of the interview going, oh, why did I agree to do this? What am I doing? This is terrible. I can't believe that I said I would do this. I don't want to do this. And then I'm trying to think of reasons to cancel. Like what's an acceptable reason to cancel? Then it gets down to like 5 minutes before and I'm like, okay, you need to stop. You can't cancel. Like, it's going to be okay. And I usually focus on the process of getting ready. Like I have to make sure that I have the questions ready and make sure that my microphone is hooked up, and focusing my attention somewhere else helps me to battle some of that anxiety. And then also knowing that 95% of the interviews that I've done have been really, really good. And a lot of the people that I've interviewed have become good friends of mine, and they're now my support system.
I hope I'll be one too.
So I know that it is going to be good. And usually as soon as the interview gets started, then I'm fine. It's just fighting through that anxiety of getting to that place. Yeah. But it's just like imposter syndrome. It's just like hitting publish on your blog posts. It gets better. You just have to keep doing it. And the first time is always the most difficult time. The second time is almost that difficult, but then the next time is a little bit better, and the next time is a little bit better. Anxiety, as far as talking to people, for me is still pretty high, but it is a lot better than what it was.
Yeah.
It's just a constant battle, but you just have to keep going. All right. I hope you got as much from that coaching session as I did. It was absolutely wonderful to talk to Mel, and I really appreciated all of her questions. It made me think a little bit more, and I hope that it makes you think some more as well. Before you go, I wanted to let you know about a couple of resources that I have for you. The first one is a free guide that's called How to Find Your Purpose. It's a brand new guide that I've revamped, and it's absolutely gorgeous. There's a link for it in the show notes where you can download it completely for free. Also, if you're interested in learning more about how to find your purpose and how to take action on it right now, I have a course that I'm offering that's a self-paced course that will walk you through every single step that you need to take to be able to do that. It's called the Purpose in Action course, and there is a link for it in the show notes. Also, remember that if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. You can find me at podcast@infjwoman.com, and you can also find me on Instagram, which is @infjwoman. Thank you so much for listening and or watching. I really, really appreciate it. Also, remember that you can go to youtube.com/The Quiet Ones podcast to watch the video interview. Please make sure that you subscribe wherever you listen and that you like and comment. It helps other people to find our podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you again next week.